Welcome, you sad, sorry sons of Krypton, to Geek Salad's Hangouts vidcast. I'm Andy.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Joe.
And today we are going to discuss some current news about the DCEU, the DC Cinematic Extended Universe, or whatever it is.
The worlds of DC now.
The magical, wonderful realms of DC. And their movies.
No, the DCEU.
We are going to autopsy what the hell happened, because yesterday, Wednesday, September 12th, it was announced that Henry Cavill is no longer going to be playing Superman, followed by news that essentially Ben Affleck, as we kind of already knew, was dropping out as Batman.
The Affleck news was official. The Cavill news was reported and alleged, though not officially confirmed.
Nothing to see here. Nothing to see. But this whole thing from the beginning has been such a goddamn clusterfuck that I need to. I'm going to be doing this throughout the thing. I am bottling this because they've taken one of my favorite characters, Batman, and just like made him. I don't know what the best word to use. He's a crutch.
It's the problem is it's not the actor's fault either. That's the sad thing. I mean, Ben Affleck did a commendable job as Batman, in my opinion.
I thought Henry Cavill was a wonderful Superman, and he's been a champion for the DC.
Oh, he's been a trooper, yeah.
Start.
Right.
Yeah, and the problem with Cavill was, and you know, if anybody who follows me on social media knows that I tend to go on these extended rants about things.
No.
The thing about Cavill was that he was very much let down primarily by Zack Snyder and the writing team. And then secondly, not as importantly, but secondly, a studio, like I always said, that learned the wrong lessons from Chris Nolan's Batman.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Zack Snyder tried to turn Superman into something that he's objectively not. Now, I enjoyed Man of Steel. I thought it was a good movie, and I kind of saw where Zack Snyder was coming from, and I was hoping it was part of a larger thing where he knew where the direction was, that we would eventually see the Superman we want, that we expected.
Instead of getting it straight up.
But the problem was the studio saw what Marvel was doing, and then all of a sudden, we got to put this thing together. Instead of letting Superman grow organically, they forced him into this situation that he should not have been in.
Right. Now, the interesting thing about this whole thing is that they went out of their way to not emulate Marvel. And by doing that, they essentially put out a movies to create this lead up to Justice League using half measures.
Correct.
The way I look at it is that in terms of equivalence, and if you were looking at the Marvel movies, the lead up to the Avengers would have been, just using DC logic here, the first Iron Man, Captain America Civil War, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which isn't even an MCU movie,
right,
and Thor, before you get to Avengers.
I kind of put it like, basically it was Iron Man as Man of Steel, and then Iron Man 2 as Batman v Superman, because they were just trying to cram everything together into one movie without letting it grow organically. I mean, that was the problem with Iron Man 2, but BVS just got it wrong on a whole new scale.
Oh, are we talking about BVS, Mike? Hold on.
Yeah.
It's just disappointment after disappointment.
So much. Now, here's the thing, Joe, about Man of Steel. I think Man of Steel, history is going to treat Man of Steel better than it has been treated. I think in the long run, and we're talking at least a decade away.
In the long run, maybe but it's still, again, if it was part of a more cohesive, planned out whole, then I think the possibilities were there. But because Man of Steel it didn't there was no payoff to everything that Superman did in Man of Steel. And a lot of the complaints are valid about he was reckless, all the destruction, the way he, the ending, killing Zod, the way his parents acted towards him, the whole kind of Randian objectivist philosophy that gives Zack Snyder a hard on.
Instilled into him by his father, Jonathan Kent.
Right.
Dad, should I have let those kids die? Fuck them.
Maybe. Yeah. It's like, if it was, if in the subsequent movies you saw him grow, going away from that and realizing, the problem that Zack Snyder gave Superman was that he made it a burden to save people. It was a burden for Superman to save people.
Right.
It was like, oh my, okay, I got to go and save people. When in reality, Superman's burden is that he can't save everybody. He wants to save everybody, but he knows he can't, and that's his burden.
Right.
And Zack Snyder tried to flip that on its head, and it's like, no, that's not the point of Superman.
How sad is it that the current anime is getting Superman better than Warner Brothers is?
Yeah. You and I going back and forth about My Hero Academia, because one of the main characters, All Might, he's the archetype of Superman. He is like everything Superman's supposed to be. The hero who selflessly helps everybody and does it with a smile and inspires everybody to follow in his path.
Yeah.
After Man of Steel, who wants to follow Superman's path? It's like nobody.
Right. It was, going back to that, and something I've oft repeated because it's a talking point that a friend of Geek Salad, David McLean, has brought up a bunch of times. Superman is treated as if his altruism is a curse and a burden and not the right thing to do, the calling that he has. And there are scenes mostly in BVS when they're doing this montage of him saving people with this sour look on his face, and the only person he takes any semblance of pleasure in saving is Lois, and that's just because he's sleeping with her.
Right. And then that's an outgrowth of Zack Snyder. And Zack Snyder, everybody knows Zack Snyder's a huge follower of Ayn Rand.
Yeah.
And that kind of, do me first philosophy. And it's like he tried to infuse that to Superman, to a character who is the antithesis of every Randian thought there is.
Right, exactly.
And the sad thing is that Warner Brothers then took that lesson, like, oh, well, people that didn't really go see the Superman movie and the BV and Justice League, so maybe we should ignore all of that stuff. It's like, no, maybe you should try getting it right for a change.
Right.
And that's what brings us to Batman versus Superman. This was supposed to be a Superman sequel that turned into, now, Mike, you said it was more like Iron Man 2. I'm comparing it to Civil War primarily because they shot their wad on a whole bunch of things. Yeah, Iron Man 2 was an advertisement for this upcoming Avengers movie. Captain America, Civil War was just like, hey, we've gotten 2 movies under our belt. Here's a whole bunch of other shit that we could just integrate into a Captain America movie.
The only problem with that, though, is that with Captain America, you had multiple action scenes throughout. With BVS, you had nothing, action scene.
Yep, and not 3 QuickTime flash videos of 3 of the heroes.
Yeah. Right, and for supposedly being a Superman movie, quote unquote, Superman didn't have a whole hell of a lot to do, except for let Jimmy Olsen getting killed off.
Right. Oh, yes. After
and splashing around in the bathtub, awkwardly in the bathtub with Lois Lane.
Well, it's interesting. Mike and I went to go see BVS, and after Jimmy Olsen gets killed, Mike leans over to me and says, "By the way, because they didn't tell you, that was Jimmy Olsen." And I said, "Fuck you. Why are we still here?"
That was my second time seeing it too. Yeah,
I know. Thank you for putting up with it so you could take me to my birthday movie.
yeah. I was hoping it would be better the second time. It wasn't.
God damn it.
It's a tough watch, and the thing that upsets me is like Ben Affleck did such a good job, and for him to get burdened with this dumpster fire, it's like he for the rest of his career he's gonna have to deal with sad Affleck memes, for anything that goes bad.
Yeah, and I mean the other thing too with Gal Gadot being in this movie too, a lot of people praised what she did, but when you go back and you watch it, what was her point? Why was she there other than to introduce Wonder Woman?
That's it. That was it.
Yeah.
Just to get people excited for the Wonder Woman movie. That's it.
Right, exactly. Which was still a year and a half away at that point.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I had heard, and there's this great thing that Bob Chipman on YouTube did. It was called Really That Bad? Batman versus Superman. It was a 3-part video series that is longer than Batman versus Superman. And he said the one thing that would have made that movie extraordinary is if they didn't decide to spill the beans 2 years beforehand at a Comic-Con and show Gal Gadot in the outfit. If it was completely kept under wraps. And don't say that's not possible to do in this day and age, because J.J. Abrams did a magnificent job with both Star Trek and Star Wars.
Yeah, and Rian Johnson, oh my God, with The Last Jedi.
Right. Keeping these things under wraps. It's absolutely possible that you could keep Gal Gadot's being Wonder Woman under wraps. So when she finally shows up and they show that outfit, that very recognizable outfit, you would get the applause lines that every character got in Infinity War.
Yeah.
Just a huge applause break.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen because you already knew who it was. You knew she was showing up.
Right. And I mean, the thing about, everybody, this Batman v Superman thing is a Tumblr creation, It's, it's what fanboys love to imagine. It does not stay true to the characters. There's, and giving Bruce Wayne the motivation of, hey, this is what happened because he blew up Metropolis and everything else. That works better for Lex Luthor because that's always been Lex Luthor's thing.
Right.
And it's just so much wasted potential in that movie. There's really no payoff to seeing them because at the end they were going to team up. They're going to be a teammate. They're going to be teammates. Right. This is like the oldest friendship in all of comics. There's no point for it.
It's the Holy Trinity.
Right, exactly. Now, here's an interesting statistic, too, and I'm going to point this out. I know I pointed out in the past, but it's been a while since we've said it. Spider-Man in Civil War had more lines of dialogue than Superman did in his own, and I'm quoting here, sequel.
Yeah.
Which is, this was never treated as a Superman movie at all. This was a Batman movie where Superman has to come in and say, I have to stop you.
Martha. And that's it. That's his thing.
My God. The sick thing is, that's not even the worst thing about that movie. It's the dream sequence.
Oh, God, yeah. The nightmare.
And it's bad on 2 levels now. One, it was nonsensical to begin with and had no place in Batman versus Superman when they were setting up this universe. And now, in hindsight, it's not going to happen.
It foreshadows Darkseid. Now there's not going to be any payoff to that.
Right. None.
Because you can't bring, and then this is one thing I've always said is you knew Thanos was the main character or the main bad in, phase 1 through 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You knew Thanos was the bad guy. Knowing that, DC should not have brought in Darkseid as the
Absolutely.
main, or hinted at Darkseid being the main.
Because they're very similar, and I heard a lot of arguments that Darkseid came first. Yeah, that's in the comic books, and good luck trying to find 100 million people who know that.
Right, in the public consciousness, people are gonna, if there's a Darkseid in any DCEU movie, they're gonna say he's a ripoff of Thanos.
Right. And here's another thing now that essentially killed this series. The fact that they were slow in releasing these movies. I mean, we talked about this before, back when everybody was fat and happy and having jobs still, that this year in 2018, there have been 3 Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm.
There will be 1 DCEU movie since the release of Justice League from November of last year.
And then after that, it's almost another year till Shazam.
That's coming out in what, April?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
6 months. But 6 months.
Yeah, so about 6 months. But at this point now, you gotta wonder, because that movie is taking place in the same universe, and you gotta wonder what's the point? Why you got? I mean, Sammy's a fresh character, so as long as they don't linger on that and try to just rub the paddles together to try to revive DCEU, or I'm sorry, the magical cinematic cinnamon world of the DC. I don't know. It's like you're looking at these forthcoming movies and just asking yourself, what's the point? What's the point of Wonder Woman 1984 at this point? Yeah, and that's the best. That's the thing, is that you go from a movie that is generally regarded as mediocre to good, depending on who you talk to. Then you go to a movie that is universally panned, except for people that says, "Fuck you, you're just defending Marvel."
Right.
Then you move to the most nonsensical part of this whole thing, and that's Suicide Squad.
Oh God! Don't even.
Oh my God! All right, so we're talking about Suicide Squad. So I got to move up. All right, Suicide Squad. I'll be fucked up by the time this is over. You're lucky I'm not drinking out of the bottle yet. Oh, it's coming. Oh. It's coming. We haven't gotten to Justice League yet.
Oh God!
Suicide Squad is one of these movies most people forget is part of this universe. And what does it have to do with anything other than Warner Brothers really love Jared Leto, so they're giving him his own movie? Margot Robbie's going to be in Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
It makes no sense that you would make the thing. This movie killed it's August, so that's that slot where the Meg does really, really well.
It's the dearth. It's like, oh, there's nothing else to watch. So
if you can't get your release out between a Memorial Day and the 4th of July, everything else at that point is, well, we'll see how this goes. And Suicide Squad did really, really well. I don't know why. It is the very definition of a shitty movie.
Hey,
it took me
Oscar, though.
Fuck off. It went 3 tries. It took me 3 tries to get through that movie. I couldn't get through the intros for 3 times. I'm like, I can't. Every one of them has like this 70s rock song as their anthem now. Everybody gets their own font.
Well, you can blame Suicide. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy for that.
I'm not blaming Guardians of the Galaxy for anything. I refuse to. They're too good.
Suicide Squad shows a fundamental flaw in the philosophy of DC Warner Brothers, and that is that they haven't earned any of the beats. Okay? True. Suicide Squad would make more sense if each of the villains appeared in a previous movie. Like if Captain Boomerang showed up in a Flash movie, if we understood what the relationship between Harley Quinn, Joker, and Batman was, rather than in flashbacks, you know?
Right.
I have no reason to care about these villains.
And that's the thing with Joker. Joker is Batman's #1 villain. Even the Lego Batman movie got this right. And to introduce him as a secondary character in somebody else's movie.
And giving him a whole, maybe 5, maybe 10 minutes to screen time?
You know what, Mike? I'll meet you in between. I say it's about 7 minutes worth of screen time. And I bet you there's a device sitting right next to me that will tell me how long he was in that movie for. I'm doing that. You guys point out your things there.
Which is amazing considering the amount of focus he got in the marketing.
Oh, he was all of it. And that was
all the marketing
waiting to happen.
I think 90% of his scenes were actually seen in the marketing.
Ugh. Around 10 minutes. I timed it as around 7 minutes. So yes.
And what's the runtime on the movie? Was it like?
It's like 2 hours and 10 minutes long. It's a long movie.
It's a slog. It's a slog.
It's a slog that makes no sense. And you're right. The big thing with these movies are they don't earn anything. The closest thing you really get to earning really anything at all is there's a scene in Man of Steel where he gets the suit on, shaves, which is weird because my wife is like, "Oh, it looks a lot better with the scruff," is what I'm trying to say.
So you mean she wants Superman with a mustache then?
Oh no, we haven't gotten to that, and that's when I mix liquors. By the way, so with that, it's like that you earn that first flight scene because it's exhilarating.
That right there, that scene where he walks out of the Kryptonian ship into the sun, he looks up and he takes his first flight or tries to take his first flight. That's pure Superman joy right there.
Yes.
That's Superman porn right there. That's what you live for.
That's probably my favorite moment of the movie.
Cape.
But the rest, it's like it's a slog and it's depressing. You're like, oh, why does Superman have to be? And again, there are moments where you see Henry Cavill shine and you can see the possibilities, like when he's being held by the military.
Yeah.
Now we all know he could break up. He could escape anytime he wants, but he's not condescending. That's a Superman moment where he's calmly explaining what's going on. He's not talking down to the puny humans, and he's got kind of like this little twinkle in his eye when he's talking to them. Those are the moments where you see, yes, Henry Cavill can be Superman. The director sucks.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing with that too is, and this is of no fault of his own, but I am happy that he delivered one of the more embarrassing lines in the movie, and I was sold on it. I was sold. As bad as the line is, it's like, oh no, this isn't an S. This is hope. And it's like it's so ham-handed. But you know what? I believed it coming out of his mouth.
But the thing is, that's Superman. Superman is ham-handed. He's I mean, for all that he is, deep down, he's just a kid who grew up in a farm out in the Midwest.
Right. There's a reason they call him the Big Blue Boy Scout.
Exactly. And I probably Warner Brothers looks at that and say, well, nobody just wants the Big Blue Boy Scout. They want a tortured Superman. It's like, no, they don't.
And I think a lot of that has to do with they looked at the returns from Superman Returns, because that was a love letter to Richard Donner and Christopher Reeve.
Yes,
absolutely a love letter to it. They looked at that and they said, well, this wasn't the biggest movie of the year, so obviously that's not what people are looking for. And we're just going to let Snyder take his dark vision of Superman and go that way.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, Superman Returns also came out a year after Batman Begins.
That's right. The Batman Begins. But yeah, and then you get this. You have this flickering light of hope. 2017, you get Wonder Woman, and
for 2/3 of it, outstanding. It's
you know what?
movie.
I will take 2/3 of a good movie in the DCU over pieces.
And you know what? Even the third act of Wonder Woman, there are really good moments in there.
Yeah, it's the third act. It's easy to overcome the third act and enjoy the movie as a whole.
Yes.
Okay. But you can see the flaws in the third act, and the problem with the third act is it falls into the DC. It's where Warner Brothers and DC fall into their rut of heavy CGI usage, over the top, action sequence with the heavy CGI. It's like it takes you out of it.
The way you can argue that is that third act of the movie, the nitpicks are justified nitpicks.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you essentially threw away all the suspense once they just revealed, and spoiler alert, David Thewlis was Ares. Right. And one of the worst,
it was obvious.
Entire series.
Yeah.
That was awful. Was that Joe?
No, it's like it was obvious who David Thewlis was.
Yeah.
Half an hour into the movie. It's like, okay, yeah. All right.
I didn't see it.
I did,
but I mean, again, it doesn't take away from overall enjoyment of the movie. The first 2/3 just are outstanding. There was an outstanding period piece and a great it should have been a great introduction into bringing Wonder Woman into the universe, not Batman v Superman.
Right, and you could have just easily done that without having her at all in Batman versus Superman. And
correct, yeah.
And I mean, the one thing they did right in that third act, I felt, was Steve Trevor's sacrifice. That was earned. My daughter cried profusely after that.
Yeah.
And that was really a heavy moment. Now, what we're hearing is that for the sequel, they're kind of throwing that away by having his 80s doppelganger.
I'm willing. Patty Jenkins has earned the benefit of the doubt, so I'm going to wait and to see that before I make a decision on if they threw that away or not. There might be a very solid reason why.
Right, but I have a feeling that, and again, this is just mere speculation, that I think with Patty Jenkins' pay raise that she got for doing this, there is going to be guaranteed a lot more studio interference.
And that is seems to be WB's weakness, is they can't help but put their fingers into everything of the movie.
Oh, those are my balls. I stepped on them again.
And that's not to say that maybe Kevin Feige doesn't do the same thing with Marvel movies. We don't know. It's just maybe they do a better job of keeping it under wraps with Marvel.
I guarantee there is studio interference with Marvel, but what Kevin Feige has a better vested interest in the health of the MCU than the suits at Warner Brothers. Who's the guy who's the
Kevin? It was Kevin Sugihara. He was the CEO.
Right. Jeff Johns.
But Jeff Johns was supposed to be the creative. He was supposed to be the Kevin Feige of DC, but he never had the power to do it because he always had to. He had somebody above him that he had to answer to. Right,
and that's the other thing with like Marvel. Marvel is owned by DC as a well-established fact right now. DC, I'm sorry. It's a well-established fact that they are owned by Disney. And when Marvel was bought by Disney, there was a lot of concern. And I think justifiably so.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
When you see the Walt Disney banner in those movies, it's at the very end of the credits as a distributor.
It just says distributed by Buena Vista. That's all it said.
That's it. Oh, and the soundtrack is available on Walt Disney Records.
Yeah.
That's it. And the only reason why you know that and you see that, other than just it's owned by Disney, is because you're waiting for that awesome stinger at the end of the movies.
Yep.
From what I hear, Kevin Feige's kind of like modus operandi is he tells like the director and screenwriters, okay, these are the story beats you have to have in the movie. Beyond that, have fun.
Can you please get to this point? Because we have a jumping off point for the next director.
Yeah.
And you look at it. Yes, Zack Snyder is very much he's got his own visual style. And he's had 3 movies to do it in, and that visual style of his, which is not a good visual style, is very, very evident. Patty Jenkins, I'm not familiar enough with enough of her work other than Wonder Woman to say whether or not that's her visual style. Who was it who directed Suicide Squad?
David Ayer.
David Ayer. David Ayer is just one of those guys that is a studio yes man.
Yeah.
Sure. Give my movie to the trailer company to cut up and edit.
From what I hear, that was not his decision.
Oh, absolutely. No, I guarantee that wasn't his decision. But I don't think he was allowed any decisions.
No.
He get to say cut when a shot was over.
And even then, the studio was probably like, all right, we'll let you have that one.
Right. But, Wonder Woman is such a good movie, and you felt like this series was going to get its life back.
Yeah. It gave you a false hope.
Oh, God. Well, all right. Well, I also want to point out, too, keep in mind, its competition, Marvel, released 3 of its strongest movies that year. Guardians 2, Spider-Man, and Ragnarok. Yep. All got released in the same year. And we're still talking about Wonder Woman being a great movie.
Yeah. Yeah,
but
it's a credit to Patty Jenkins, because also she fought the studio a lot against the studio to keep a lot of the things that she wanted to keep in the movie.
Right. Yeah. Right. And the previous director could not do that.
Right.
So, but and so we know that it has this great life ahead of it, and then it all gets squandered with Justice League. Now, Joe, I know you can't bring yourself to watch Justice League.
You would have to commit me to a sanitarium.
Quick story.
I would be so depressed.
We were
don't do this to me, Mike.
Blu-ray.
I guess what I own.
Yeah, we see it right there. I was watching one of the recent episodes we were going to record. Joe got over a little early, and I was watching a video that was comparing the major cinematic differences between Infinity War and Justice League. Joe has laid eyes on it for less than 180 seconds before he turns into George C. Scott in Hardcore, and he's like, "Turn it off! Turn it off! Turn it off!"
It's so I can't watch any clips of it or anything like. We're just getting like this, just getting awash with depression. It's like, oh, why? Why did you guys do this?
And I will. Here's one thing that you don't hear a lot of people say. You're not gonna blame Zack Snyder for the turnout of this movie. Yes, family tragedy led him to leave this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Joss Whedon take over.
That I believe if that hadn't occurred, Warner Brothers would have found some other.
They would have found some other way to have.
This movie was going to end up being bad no matter what. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah,
exactly. The Whedon stuff, which is just it's weird with the Whedon stuff because if you give it a good look, you could easily tell which shots are color corrected and which ones are not. Yeah. Their FX department needs to be taken out and shot, though. The special effects in this movie, and now I know I've told this story before. I may have told that on the show before, but when I flew down to Aruba, it was a 6-hour flight. The in-flight movie at the back of the seat in front of me was Justice League. I watched this movie 3 times with no sound on, and just watching these special effects, and it just they look like they're being rendered right in front of you.
Oh, I believe it.
They're bad. It's bad effects. With the faceless, just legion of villain.
It's who's the effects shop? Is it Weta that does it for Warner Brothers?
I'll look that up right now. Mike, you looking it up?
I'm looking on the back.
What's that?
I'm looking on the back of the Blu-ray here.
The reason I ask is because Warner Brothers isn't Warner Brothers contracted to Peter Jackson? Couldn't they use his effects shop, Weta, which did an unbelievable job with the Lord of the Rings series?
They did a great job with Lord of the Rings, but the issue with Weta is that Lord of the Rings is their best work.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, Christ, the last movie was released 15 years ago. The effects of The Hobbit aren't as good. King Kong is abysmal in terms of just overall special effects. King Kong was abysmal. Were we able to find that out, Mike?
No, it's not on back.
I mean, Weta is one of these things that they gained their name off of one series of films because it was an unenviable job.
Right.
But Weta is just not as good as I think people give them credit for. I mean, I know people have to shit on ILM, but
the thing is, I mean, everybody knows that ILM sets the standards. They are the standard for visual effects houses. But there are other visual effects houses out there that can do a pretty decent job. I mean, the visual effects house that did Pacific Rim, they did an unbelievable job with that movie. Okay. It's so for a studio that has the kind of budget that the Warner Brothers does, and for all the expectations that Justice League had, to really cheap out on the special effects, it's mind-blowing to me, and again, and a lot of it has to do with the visual palette that they use. Everything's just so washed out. The red, everything's red or brown, or it's like it's not fun to see on the screen.
Right, exactly. By the way, Weta at least had a hand in the visual effects.
Yeah, because I think they're contracted to Warner, so I think that's
right.
Part of it.
And let's be honest, this movie was supposed to. I can't remember because I stopped watching them after this. Mike, who's the online critic?
Jeremy Johns.
Not Jeremy Johns. No, not him.
John Campea.
Yeah, John Campea.
He loves it. I don't know why. But
this was going to be the biggest movie of the year. It's going to gross over $1 billion.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And it came in below the total global. Like the global for Justice League is lower than the global for Doctor Strange.
A C tier Marvel character.
Yep.
D tier, really. Actually, if you think about it.
Well, nobody really waxes nostalgic about Doctor Strange.
No. Not unless you're a Steve Ditko fan.
Yeah.
I mean, the sad thing about the Justice League, though, is that they decided not to push off the release because as they need to get it done before the merger with AT&T, so that all the executives would receive cash bonuses.
Right.
So you put out a subpar movie just so you get extra money. But guess what? Had that come back to bite you.
Well, the other thing with that too is that, as we have been told 1,000 times, that's it. Everything you saw on screen, with maybe give or take a couple of like little snippets here and there, that's it. There is no Snyder cut.
Get over it.
There is no Snyder cut. And these fools that the Snyder cut, the guy that they threw under the bus time and time and time again, is finally going to come and save them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the fans who just had nothing but invective to say about Zack Snyder. Oh, he's going to save this movie. No, he's going
to save the movie. Oh, we want Snyder back.
It's gonna be the same crap that BVS was.
Yeah. Oh, and I would venture to say that Justice League, while not as offensive, is as bad.
I mean, I know you enjoy it, Mike, and that's.
I enjoy parts of it. Yes.
but it's just, again, it's like they did not earn the beats. The movie did not earn the beats.
No.
You know, I can't say that because I haven't seen it, but it's like I have no interest to see these guys team up because I haven't seen them act separately.
Right.
It's like, oh, all of a sudden the Flash has been acting as a vigilante for however long he was.
Yeah.
It's like, it's
right.
It's I've heard that Ezra Miller does a good job as the Flash.
Yes.
It's like I
wanted to punch him in the balls, quite honestly.
I really liked him. I thought he did a fantastic job.
But
again, but the thing is, if Andy, you may want to punch him in the balls in this movie, but maybe if he had his own movie beforehand,
right,
that kind of fleshed out the character a little bit more, then maybe it's like, yeah, maybe it would have worked.
Right.
I would have liked to see what Catherine's husband Joe had to say about the Flash, because apparently he's the Flash is Joe's favorite character,
right?
Comic book character. So, and they saw the movie, and she's just, she had some pretty interesting things to say about it.
Yeah, that's why, again, I think we need to get you drunk and then just put you in front of it. It's just weird too, because the aftermath of Justice League was essentially, well, just hire Ezra Miller, we'll do Flashpoint, and we'll fix everything.
Maybe not now. I don't know. Is Flashpoint on or off? You keep hearing, oh yeah, it's on. No. Yes. No.
I actually don't think they have a director at this point. I honestly think this movie is essentially a dead production.
It's in development hell.
Right. I mean, I feel bad. Like, my Google Newsstand still shows me pictures of Ray Fisher. And it's like, yeah, I haven't talked to anybody in a while about Cyborg, but I'm still pretty positive. Should you be?
No.
Yeah,
I know that retcons Cyborg into JLA to be one of the founding members, but to me, he's always going to be a Teen Titan.
He's going to be a Teen Titan, yeah.
Right.
And that's the way it should have been. He should have been a Teen Titan from the start.
Right. But in this, he's just the token black guy.
Yeah.
Right.
If they wanted a token black guy, they should have gotten Black Lightning. They should have used Black Lightning.
They could have used Black Lightning, but they didn't.
I mean, the downside though is that, like, as Joe mentioned before, they've learned the wrong lessons from this. I mean, just like Wonder Woman came out last June, so but a little over a year ago. It was a huge hit, both commercially and financially. So now they've pushed aside Superman. They've pushed aside, we don't know about Suicide Squad 2. The Flash is gone, but we are getting a Birds of Prey movie. We are getting a Batgirl movie, and they're pushing a Supergirl movie on.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Supergirl is probably my favorite DC character of all time. Birds of Prey, I absolutely adore. Hell, I've got a statue of Huntress there and there. But I would much rather see a really good Superman movie. Give us.
I want to see the Superman that we read about. There's so many blown opportunities. Like, I've always had this image in my head of, like, the cinematic Arrow being Green Arrow, being a modern day Robin Hood,
right,
and then having to go up against Batman. Two rich guys who dress up in tights and who have two different philosophies about how to do things. You'd have, like I said, you'd have Green Arrow as a modern day Robin Hood, and you have Batman as a vigilante. And it'd be like, there's so much you could do, but they're not. I don't know why they can't do it.
I'm just so massively frustrated the fact that Warner Brothers is consistently being reactionary to everything.
Yeah. Right.
They've never been non-reactionary, which is pissing me off.
Let me put it this way. The one series they did right was Harry Potter. And the reason why they did Harry Potter right was because J.K. Rowling was breathing down their necks the entire time. One person in control saying, no, you cannot do that.
One person
cannot do that. Please
One
feel free
person
to
who
do that.
one person who loves the property, who knows and understands the property, having control of that property.
Right.
Right, and I think what and to that point, Andy, when Harry Potter ended, they freaked because
Yeah.
they had nothing in the pipeline. You know,
Right.
when you think about it, Harry Potter ended after, was it Dark Knight Rises, or after the Dark Knight?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember when the last Harry Potter movie came out.
Last Harry Potter movie came out in 2011. Dark Knight Rises came out in 2012.
So yeah, so after that they had nothing.
Well, they had Man of Steel the very next year, and
They
that
had
was
Man of Steel, but there was you can't tell me that they had planned. They were planning a shared cinematic universe after Man of Steel. They panicked after what Marvel did with Avengers and said, "Oh, we got to put something together."
right.
You know,
Because-
when Avengers came out, Man of Steel was pretty much in the can. It was just in post production.
I mean, they did have a couple of neat little Easter eggs in there, which was
great, and that could have been a good building block. Like if they needed to do something to say this was a shared universe, at the end of Man of Steel, they should have done a stinger showing. They didn't have to show his face, but like the back of Bruce Wayne sitting at the back computer, seeing the visual of Superman going through the Wayne satellite or something like that.
Right. Or
and then like Alfred coming down saying something, is like, what will you do, sir? And he's like, and then just leave it at that.
Right. Well, here's the thing too, because they already established in Batman versus Superman that Metropolis and Gotham are across the bay from each other.
Well, that's believe it or not, that's actually established in the comics. That's actually reality in the comics.
Well, still, all you needed to do is just show the bat signal,
right?
And that's it. And that's all you needed to do. But the thing here's I think where the reactionary oh shit came in. 2013 comes and goes. What is the number one movie of 2013?
It's not Man. It wasn't Man of Steel.
It was not. It was certainly not Man of Steel. It was Iron Man 3.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
2013.
2013. Iron Man 3 broke $1 billion. It was their very first standalone movie to crack $1 billion.
Yeah, it was like 1.01, right?
It was. Yeah, it's on the.
It was.
But it's still $1 billion. In that time period, they have had two other standalone movies crack $1 billion, Civil War and Black Panther, and Guardians of the Galaxy 2 came damn close.
Yeah.
One DCEU movie has cracked $1 billion.
Nope.
Wonder Woman has come the closest, but I think it's still like 200 million below that.
Yeah.
So that's where your reactionary thing is that, well, the standalone Iron Man movie, which didn't have any additional Avengers in it, beat us. Now let's just start. Let's start learning the wrong lessons from what Marvel did. Well, we won't say we're copying them, but we'll accelerate copying them.
We'll copy them. We'll copy Marvel, but we'll do the exact opposite of terms of tone and storytelling that they do.
Oh no, we'll build the team first and then give them their movies later to flesh out characters and stuff. I mean, I go back through time hops during the production of BVS, and they were adding characters left and right.
Yeah.
I mean, they were legitimately after they cast Ray Fisher for Cyborg right after Winter Soldier came out.
Yep.
And it's like, well, Falcon's a popular black character. We need one. And that brings us to Aquaman. Mike, what did you read about Aquaman?
Good, but not great.
Yeah, I mean the a couple of reviews that I've heard are saying basically if you love the Marvel movies, you'll probably love Aquaman.
Okay.
I've read anything from ranging from it's okay to it's serviceable. It's not gonna say the DC, but it's a good movie kind of thing.
The term I heard one of you guys use yesterday was "don't get too attached."
Oh well, yeah. I just said that because, I mean, they're pretty much shit canning all the rest of the DCEU. So this is pretty. I mean, this and quite frankly, Wonder Woman 84 at this point are kind of lame ducks.
Right.
Well, that's
Right.
in Shazam too.
Like I said before, Shazam is going to be make or break based on that second trailer. Because right now they showed the whimsy of a kid with superpowers,
which I really liked. I
mean, the trailer was really fun.
Right. There's got to be a jumping off point from there that they have to show you at some point mainly to bring more, comic book fans in, more people that aren't just, more people that are looking for a superhero movie more than boy gets superpowers.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know where we leave it. It's obviously it's not up to decide what happens. We can, we
can fantasize about what we want to see, but at the end of the day,
exactly. At the end of the day, that's the thing is that it's impossible. I honestly think this is the series of movies that are impossible to fantasy anything with.
Yeah.
You can theorize all you want about the next Star Wars movie or how Avengers 4 is going to go. I throw my hands up in the air.
Because it's such a muddled mess. Like I said, there's no good foundation. Now with the new, and Warner Brothers DC is not helping themselves by saying that the Joker origin movie has nothing to do with the DCEU.
Such a good idea.
The Matt Reeves Batman movie. Well, that may or may not be part of the DCU. We haven't decided yet. It's going to be in a young Batman, so we don't know what we're going to do with it yet. And it's like, well, okay. Well, what is your focus going to be then? What is your focus? Are you just going to make these standalone movies that are not interconnected in any way, or are you going to make a series of movies that's going to tell a overall serialized story?
Right.
You can't have it both ways. You got to do it either or.
Right.
To make it work, you got to do it either or.
And how? I mean, look at what Fox has done with their properties. At least with the X-Men properties. Those are tied together loosely. Even Deadpool they're all tied together, and they were never meant to be part of a larger cinematic universe, but they've evolved into one.
You know what? Give Fox credit. They treat their I don't know if it was on purpose, but they treat their movies more like comic books than the other studios do.
I agree. With the exception of Fantastic.
Each property has their own exists within their own space, but they're part of a larger thing that you may or may not be aware of. They'll drop little Easter eggs here and there, but they're not beating you over the head with it.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Right. And I think also with moviegoers, the expectation is that if these all come from the same source, they need to mesh together. So, with DC's plans of doing this thing where it's like, well, this one's part of the universe, but this one isn't, but you saw this character in this one. And it goes with their TV too. And I know I've said this before that not every person who watches Arrow and watches The Flash and Supergirl and sees these movies reads the comic books. They don't understand alternate universes. They need to make, in order to make sense, they need to mesh together.
They're gonna go to the Flash movie and say, "Hey, that's not Grant Gustin."
Right. Exactly. And what are you gonna do? Well, there are infinite Earths. It's like, no. If I am, I've been a lifelong comic book reader, so I can buy the infinite Earths. I don't like it, but I can buy it.
And to be fair, if you've watched The Flash, you already know that concept very well. They've used it many times in the show.
All right. But now imagine this, okay, if you will. Not the person who watches The Flash, but the girlfriend or the wife of the person watching The Flash. Watches it incrementally because they just want to wait for the TV to free up.
Or she knows that Grant Gustin was in Glee.
Right. Boyfriend or husband takes said partner to the movies to see the Flash. And just like Joe said, that's not Grant Gustin. Can you?
Or, you could always reverse the genders as well. We're not trying to be ice.
No, but you get what we're trying to say. It's like it's not a universal
truth
that just because somebody watches The Flash, they're going to understand the multiverse the way a comic book fan does, a comic book reader.
And let's be honest, they change the rules on that so often. I don't think any of us can really explain the multiverse at this point. Jesus.
I've been reading how many crises can the DC universe have?
Right. I mean, I've been reading the new Secret Wars from 2015 with Marvel, and still the alternate universe and the regular universe are just, when those things are banging together, it's confusing to me.
Right. So.
But yeah, I mean, we could drag this on forever and ever and ever. Let's just.
I can't afford to get any more depressed.
I don't know what to say. I love Batman. I've always loved Batman. I
love Superman. I've always loved Superman.
That's the thing. I mean, like I've always said, Superman is the alpha. He is the hero that everybody, he's my favorite superhero, or at least, it's always a switch out between him and Spider-Man. But
right,
he is, he is the archetype of what a superhero is supposed to be.
Right,
and it's so disappointing that DC and Warner Brothers are wasting this property.
I agree. Now, there's a bright light at the end of the tunnel here. In November, they are releasing for the 40th anniversary Superman the movie.
Oh, yes. Thank God. We can remember what Superman's supposed to be like.
We can remember how good it was. I have it on DVD, but I haven't seen a good remastered version of Superman.
I've never seen it in the theater, so I that would be something to go see it in the big screen.
I just hope I have a better reaction to seeing it in the big screen than I did to seeing Batman '89 again recently.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, because I watched it with my kids last year. It plays like a movie made in the 1970s. It's slow going.
Yeah, and then and the effects look like they're from the 1970s. Yeah.
They look really good. I think they've aged well. But it's the happiest moment I can remember with my grandfather. He took me to see that. That is the happiest moment I ever had with him. So we've got that. So with that said, I think we need to wrap this up. We've gone about an hour, and I can only drink so much. So
I know that is not true, Andy.
Oh, that sounds like a challenge, sir.
All right. At least you're home.
All right. So, yeah. So if you like what you heard here, if you think we're full of crap or you have something else to add, please put a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, please, and hit the bell to get notified. Also, Mike, Joe, and I, along with our friend Catherine, host a podcast called Geek Salad, which can be found at geeksalad.podbean.com. It can also be found on the associated Podbean app, iTunes, Stitcher, Stitcher, and Spotify and Google Music. As well, all of our audio comes to YouTube as well. Our upcoming episode, we're going to be discussing the best movie franchise scores, which has been, oh boy, you want to talk about something, a sore spot for DC.
Oh, good God.
One of the responses, and I'll reveal who said it on the show, one of the responses was, can't we just pretend they never happened? Trying to rate a DC score is just, I don't have an analogy for it. I've been drinking. So, so yeah, it'll be an interesting episode. So we hope you listen up on that. We also just recorded our 2-part live action Disney movie show. So that's already up. So please feel free to enjoy that. And until next time, I'm Andy.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Joe.
Go forth and be nerdful. We'll talk to you later. Stay strong, DC people.
And don't drink and drive, please.
I'm in